Sometimes you just need to turn off the distractions, get to work, and find the universal truths that affect us all and that govern our universe. This is a good place to do that. Mark Foltz and Kat Hobson will try to help with that a bit by bringing fantastic guests. Let's see what's happening tonight.
Welcome to Universal Truths with Mark Foltz, coming to you from WBHM-DB in beautiful Birmingham, Alabama. And I am coming to you from my sweet, cute, tiny home near Pensacola, Florida. And I want to welcome everybody here tonight. We are going to, of course, we talk all sorts of weird, interesting things and paranormal, just anything we can get away with. And so tonight, I had done this on another show. I had talked about the Annunaki. And then I have people who come into the store I work in, and they want to talk about that a lot. So we're going to try and cover it in my little redneck white history, the way I was taught. And I'll make it where I think you can understand it. And then we can look at it and see if we can find threads to tie together. If it happened then, if it's happening now, it could have happened then. So we'll talk about it, because the minute you start to talk Anunnaki, people start to think little green men and these, a cup and saucer, a saucer flying across the sky, or the movie where what was his name? Tom Cruise, almost got eaten, I watched that movie just to watch him get eaten by an alien, but it didn't happen. But, we're all raised on different versions on what do we think travelers are? What do we think an alien is? What does that mean? And why are the Anunnaki kind of an important thing for us to look at? Because they're in the records. They're in the Sumerian records, which are probably 450, 100,000 years ago. And then we're not being taught the Sumerian records in school. We're not taught that. We're taught other things and maybe other people's religious beliefs, but we're not taught about these records, which are the oldest written records in human history. So we're going to cover some of that, and I'm going to have to cover first, of course, for anyone that wants to come see me, Mark Foltz, here in Pensacola, Florida. I work at Live and Not Live Metaphysical Store. I'm there usually Friday and Saturday. I'm there Saturday from 11 to 7 and Friday from like 1 to 6 or 7, depending. But if you want to see me in person and you're coming down here, give the store a call and then let me know. Give me a day beforehand, and I can see if I can be there to see you. And I'm there, and there's 2 other readers there. I do readings and read the knots on your head, talk to your spirit. There's 2 other readers there, Terry O'Connor and Tony Talley, and we all are 60 years old. We all have different ways of doing our readings, and Sal Gandolfo owns the store, and Matthew Ferguson works with him in the store, and they're all metaphysical practitioners, and they know all the rocks, they know all the incense. So if you have spiritual needs and all that, please come in and look at the store, and they'll help you, I'll help you. And if you want to come in and talk to your dead people, I am available. That is what I do. I have had life-changing experiences like being killed and coming back. So I talk to dead people quite a bit. So everyone just, if you want to holler at me and see me, that's where you can see me. And on Facebook, you can look up Mark Elliott, Elliott, Fultz, Fults. So tonight, let's get into alien talk here. Now, when I started in metaphysics when I was 18, back in the 70s, 42 years ago, there was, of course, there was no internet. There was none of that. And there were shows and there were books. And, if you were lucky, you could research from the library, or you could research through like rare books and things like that, catalogs that you could get, and you could find all this information. And one of the things I remember starting to pop up back then was there was a gentleman named Zachariah Sitchin, and he wrote books upon books upon books on his translation of the Sumerian tablets. And like I said, the tablets go back, hundreds of thousands of years, not just 6,000, not 5,000, 6,000, 10,000, hundreds of thousands of years. And it's our oldest known records. And written, and these people, the Sumerians, we got a lot from the Sumerians. And I think they created, the wheel and things like that. But they said they got their information in their records. They said, well, we got what we know from the Annunaki. And those were people who came from somewhere else. And the story, now I'm going to base it on the Zachariah Sitchin material. Now, anyone who goes looking for it, his books are great, but they are like reading stereo instructions sometimes. And there are people who say, oh, he mistranslated, la, 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 la. And then there are people who go, this is great, this is wonderful. We get a lot of information from him, and it's because of him that we have a conversation about these. Because back in the day when I was young, the only people that you had to be, only a few people had access to these tablets. You worked for the museums or you had to get special permission. So he translated these, and the stories that he started putting out, at the time it was a little over my head 42 years ago. I would read it and I'd grasp some of it. But then I had 2 friends who devoured it and would break it down for me. And so what I'm going to do tonight, I didn't really get to brush up on everything, So I'm going to do it from my point of view, and always remember, go and research. If I miss something or I miss talking or anything, go look. But I think I can compare some of what they were telling me, what seems similar to some other religious stories. And, in the long run, a lot of it makes sense to me. I'm kind of like, I do a lot of stuff people would consider woo-woo. But if you can find something that's in our lives today or something that's happened that makes it like it's possible, then why couldn't it have happened? And we have to not look at the Anunnaki as, these little green men who came from space. They were what I consider travelers. And we have a very smart man nowadays, Elon Musk, very controversial person, but very smart, very rich, who wants to go and do to Mars what these people came here to do, really. So we're planning to do it, and we have the technology to roughly do what these other people did. Now, I'm going to tell you, these other people were beyond intelligent. We probably are still way behind them in technology, because some of the ancient stuff, if you watch any of these shows about Egypt and the pyramids and stuff like that, they'll show you these pieces of granite that were drilled with drills thousands of years ago that we don't have the technology to replicate. And even though they'll go, oh, we know how they built this or built that, we really don't. I mean, some of these blocks where you can't put a hair or a piece of paper between them, and they were carved thousands of years ago, not 10 years ago. We still don't have the technique to really do that. Whatever these people, they brought a lot of knowledge to us. But were they our friends, or were they opportunists? Were they, are they still alive? So we got to look at those. So I'll start talking about what I believe with it, or what I remember. And before our first break, we'll get started with that. And I have to tell people, my brain is a little fried today, because 2 days ago I was at a red light. Somebody drove by when the light turned for them, and they threw a kitten out of a car window into the street. And I was out of my car. I don't know how I got out of my car and got to that kitten and got it out of oncoming traffic. I don't know how I did that. It was like everything froze. But I'm a 60-year-old physically disabled person. I mean, I'm not real fast, because I've been crushed before. And so when you see my fat psychic self getting out of a car, running into traffic and grabbing a baby, it's probably quite a sight. But I do have to say, the baby, I instantly, when I was on my way to the store to work, we found a home for it. Before I even got there, one of the readers wanted it, Terry O'Connor, and she's feeding it, took it to the vet. It's actually fine. It's a sweet little thing. It's about 5 weeks old. and it's survived. It's thriving and everything, but it shook me a little bit. So my brain is probably tapioca pudding right now. But and it's good that I wasn't in my car behind these people, because after I grabbed that baby, they were lucky they were gone, because I wouldn't be able to talk to you from where I'm at right now, because I'd still be making bond. So I thank the goddess for not letting me be behind their car. It turned out okay, but so we're going to get into this. Now, when I was young and we would talk about this, I had conversations with a friend named Robert, who used to really eat this Zechariah Sitchin stuff with a spoon. And what it is, there is a planet called Nibiru that these people supposedly came from, and they are considered like the 12th planet. And their planet is so far away from the sun, what they were having to do, they needed gold. They had an idea. They were going to make these satellites with great big, like, boat sails made out of gold, covered with gold, to reflect light from the sun to get sun to their planet, which is a pretty smart little idea if we're talking 400,000 years ago. So they needed the gold. So they came here. Their leader was, I think it's called Annunaki. And they came here with their workforce, their slaves. I hate the word slaves, but they brought their slaves here to work, and they just so happened went to Africa, where there are gold mines still. And they made these people dig in the mines. Well, their gravity is, where they come from, is so different that the people who were working the mines hated it. You know, it's hot. They came from somewhere very cool, and it's so hot here, they hated it. They hated the gravity. From what I understand from spirits I've had encounters with, they hated the gravity. They just hated it. So they rebelled. Now, and I don't want to insult anyone's belief system, but I am going to thread it in with stories I've heard as a child from my religion, which was, when I was young, I was a Christian. I was a little Baptist. And you hear about the stories of the angels rebelling and being thrown out of heaven. Well, these people, they really liked their slaves, apparently. But these people rebelled. They said, we're not doing this. And they weren't able to make them do it. And that set in motion something that is very controversial now. To anybody, I mean, to a lot of people, it's very controversial that they got together. They had a female scientist 400,000 years ago, and they told her to make a workforce. So they looked around, and there were people here. They were more like what we would consider the Neanderthalic, hairy and tall. And they took a gene library, a DNA library, and they took those people and mixed their DNA with them to make us bigger, because they were big, tall people, stronger, smooth because the people here had hypertrichosis and were hairy, and to make us pretty because they thought we were hairy and ugly. So they gave us makeup and mirrors, and we were on our way. I'm going to have to go to a break, but we will be right back. So all of you out there in the dark, don't touch that dial.
Warning, the following message does not necessarily reflect the views of WBHM-DB or its hosts, guests, listeners, or of any functioning adult in general. In fact, Frank should probably seek professional help. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi there, Frank Lee here. I thought that I would spend a few moments telling you about the positivity from the network here. The overall message of para-unity and happiness, and how everyone here wants to get along with everyone out there, and how everything is just wonderful. Wait, Cat's not looking. Okay, I've got something to really tell you. Okay, so I'm going to tell you what's really going on. Honestly, all that being nice and positive crap was kind of hurting my soul, as dark as it is. So, what's really happening? Well, you see it all the time. Everybody and their brother out there has a paranormal team because they watched a couple of episodes of Ghost Hunters or some crap like that. So they go and they spend half their mortgage payment on tools and things that light up that they don't understand. And then the next logical step after buying matching black t-shirts and posing like 90s rappers for their Facebook page is to, of course, have their own podcast. Well, you know what? You're not going to find that crap here. What we have here at WBHM Digital Broadcasting is the best host, the best guest, bringing you real information. All of the hosts here on this network know their stuff. They are the people who have been out there doing the work, doing actual research. And no, by research, I don't mean binge watching some kind of cheesy TV show on Netflix. I mean reading books. I mean out in the field doing the legwork. And who are they interviewing on their shows? They're bringing you the people they have learned from. They're bringing you the best in the field, covering all kinds of topics from UFOs and aliens to Bigfoot to cryptozoology to ghosts to anything you can think of a bit strange and unexplained. It is here, and you're going to get the best information here. So stay tuned to WBHM Digital Broadcasting. Don't go anywhere. Speaking of going somewhere, I've got to go before my mic gets cut. We'll see you there on WBHM-DB.
Welcome back to Universal Truths with Mark Fultz, coming to you from WBHM-DB in beautiful Birmingham, and coming to you from my beautiful little tiny house in near beautiful Pensacola, Florida. And I am here talking to you tonight about the Annunaki and who be they, and what is their connection to us. So I will give you my little poor person version of this, because like I said, I had people, we would talk about this. It wasn't my main subject, but it is something that now is so talked about now that it kind of surprises me how many people are interested in the Annunaki. So when we went to break, we were talking about these people who needed gold. They didn't need it for money. They needed it. They were making satellites to put around their planet, the 12th planet, and we're going to make the satellites with like boat sails covered with gold to catch sunlight, to keep sunlight coming to their planet, which is a pretty nifty idea. A 400,000-year-old idea. Pretty nifty. If that's how the translation really is from Zechariah's vision. That's the way I understand it. And they came here, and they went directly to Africa, which has, wait for it, gold. Still has gold. So they were digging in Africa. They had their workers, their slaves who were here, who were digging in Africa. Now, where these people come from, the gravity is different. So they were cooler, taller. Gravity was much different for them. The workers hated it here, despised it, rebelled. Now, like I said, I don't want to insult anyone's Christian beliefs or anything like that, but as a little Baptist, I'm going to tell you the stories that resonated with me, because you have the thing of where the angels had the falling out. No. Well, these people rebelled, and they won. Really, they were not going to work here. So the leader, Annunaki, went to a female scientist. Now, look how far ahead they were 400,000 years ago. And went to a female scientist and said, make something. So she took DNA. They had like a DNA library from their people and other people. They're not the only travelers out there, kids. So this would have been other people. And they had their DNA. So they took what was here, which were tall, Neanderthal type people, but we were tall and hairy. And they made the mixture, and she created hybrid workers who would be adapted to the environment here, but they would have some of their attributes, like being tall, being stronger, and being smooth. They thought smooth was pretty. So they thought we were hairy and ugly. So they gave us mirrors and makeup and said, work on it. And she worked a lot on it. And actually, the one that they really came up with that they liked was they named him Adapa. Now, Adapa was apparently very tall. That whatever it was about him, they just loved it. They loved the results. So they actually were able to order. They could make these hybrid workers at will. But when they made Adapa, they made the other ones to work in the mines. They didn't put Adapa in the mines. They put him to work, which we would consider, I guess, Africa. They had started a greenhouse for terraforming. So they put him in charge of the terraforming greenhouse. Now, that resonates to me as a child to the stories of Adam and Eden. And it would explain why would he have to work a garden or watch the garden. They gave him that because they didn't want him working in the mines. He was given a privileged job. And the more that it went along, they thought that he needed a mate because he was hybrid. So they gave him one of the Annunaki women, a woman of high standing, apparently. She wasn't a slave. They gave him her as a wife or a partner. And she had the audacity to go, no, I don't like him. I don't like him. He's just boring. No. And she said, thank you, but no thank you. And she went off to do her own thing. And many religions have demonized her, let alone most women, but they demonized her because she turned him down. She just thought he was just too simple, too boring. So they went back to the scientists and said, well, make one. So they put Adapa to sleep, took a rib, and cloned a female partner. Now, that's a 400,000-year-old kind of story, from what I understand. But as a child, it reminded me of the story that God wanted to make a mate for Adam and put him to sleep, took a rib, made Eve. Now, when I was little, I'd go, why did he have to take a rib? God can go poof, and there's animals. God can go poof, and there's life. God can go poof, and the world has plants. So why couldn't God just go poof, and there's a woman? Well, if we go to this story, then I go, when I heard that story, I went, well, now that kind of makes sense, because we can clone people now. They aren't telling you if they're doing it, but we can. And I went, why would you take a rib? To get the DNA. So then we have their story kind of sounding like the story I was raised on. But a lot of people go, oh, no. The Bible stories don't come from that. No. Well, to me, in my opinion, it sounds pretty normal. It's like, well, that makes sense. Some of the Bible, if you replace, some of these words with alien, it might work better. Or it might make sense. It makes sense to me. But they made these people to watch the garden. And then, too, they became like, they really liked these people. But some of the other scientists and people that were with them did not like them tinkering, doing this. There were rules. And it had to all be kind of scientifically controlled. And at that point, they were still being controlled. They weren't getting crazy with it. They made them where they weren't reproducing, Then one of these scientists who kind of threw a wrench into the workings when they weren't watching, he tinkered with them and made it where they could reproduce. That was not the plan. They were still creating these people in the lab out of a test tube. They felt like they were in control of it. When people started to be able to reproduce, they either, their choice would be, well, we would kill these people or fix them or let them be. So something happened in there where they let them be. But that led to them letting Adapa and Eve leave the terraforming garden center, Eden. And in the Bible, it was, well, Eve tempted him with an apple, and there was a serpent, and they got thrown out for shame. Well, apparently, at some point they weren't ashamed. They were naked. Why these people weren't dressing them, I'm not quite sure. But something happened. They told them, go on your own, go out there, live, reproduce. So the snake to me in metaphysics means that it can represent DNA, but it also can represent the root chakra, which is the sex chakra. So the reason they left is because, they became aware of their reproduction abilities. And so they went out and they reproduced, and then, people were getting on their own. They were getting to be out of hand, probably. Like, if you get a lot of rabbits, you don't have a lot of babies. So it began something, and two, they were a little ashamed that they had let it get out of their hands. But then other people who were Anunnakis started looking at the women and the people here that they saw developing on their own and thought, yeah, that's kind of hot. So they, without controlling in a scientific way, they just began to have relations with the people here, and their DNA, not controlled in a lab experience, created unusual effects. And I think that's where, where some of these images of half human, half lion, or half goat, or half horse, or half this and half that, it may come from that, because their DNA just didn't mix the same way outside of the lab. And you would have freaks, good freaks. Apparently there were some amazing results, and then there were some freakish results. And there became people who were just giants, because these people were big, so their DNA was big. And Seventh-day Adventists, I've been told, believe that that Adam was like 16 feet tall or something. And I think, really, if we looked at it, not going crazy about it, we have 7 foot, and we have had 8 foot tall people here during our lifetimes here on Earth. So these people could have been, let's say they were 8 feet tall. That's a giant. The David and Goliath. Goliath really could have been like an 8 foot tall person. That's huge. There have been stories of Indians killing a race of these people of red-headed giants who were just so hungry. They were big. They'd eat horses. They grabbed the Indians and ate them. So the Indians trapped them in caves and smoked them to death, and we have stories in the Bible about giants, the story about the Hebrew going to the desert and 40 years, and then they got to the promised land and were said, well, you got to go in there and kill the rest of these giants, and they didn't want to do it. So someone else had to go in and do it. And that's because they were the leftover of what we call the Nephilim, which that came from the interacting of the other Anunnaki looking down and mating with what was here. And there are strange spirits I have seen, because that's part of my business. And, I deal with human spirits. But I have seen some spirits in places that they don't correlate to anything we know. And they don't correlate to anything I knew at that time. I have seen some that were beautiful, kind of scary looking, but very different. And some that were kind of bluish skinned because they didn't have enough oxygen. Your veins your blue veins are with blue blood because until it gets oxygenated, it's blue. So, they just had a little bit more of a blue tint, beautiful white hair, kind of beautiful, kind of scary looking. And then I've seen some that were beyond, I don't even know how to describe them, but they definitely they were spirits, but they weren't what we consider, what a spirit looks like. And that's because they're different. They're just unique. And I have seen someone that, for whatever reason, someone used energy that came from these peoples, that involved these people for some reason in a magic thing. And they tried to use that to hurt an individual. And I was trying to help the individual, and I saw these spirits. There were 7 of them, and they just kind of came down like a curtain in between the bad people and the good person. And I'll swear to you, it was like it turned the switch off. It turned their electricity off. Those people who were metaphysical practitioners who knew how to really hurt people in a bad way, they lost everything. They lost all of their energy, all of their power, and they couldn't get themselves out of a wet paper bag. And I saw that. And so they don't really interact with us very much, but if they have to, they do it out of kind of a higher way of thinking. They're going, well, they're using energy that's not fair, so let's come and balance this. They're really like balancing energy. So they are out there, there are things out there. But going back to, we have had people who are almost 8 foot tall. These people could have been 8 feet tall. When we get them, it's a throwback. So I go, okay, well, there could have been a race of 8 foot tall people. Makes sense. And we just see little bits and pieces of it. But there could have been a whole bunch of that. And that's a throwback. And people with hairy bodies, that have hypertrichosis, they get long hair, all of them. They look like Bigfoot. But they're hypertrichosis. I think it's a throwback to those people that they used. We're going to have to go to a break, but we'll be right back. So all of you out there in the dark, don't touch that dial.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope.
That'll do. Hello, I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Welcome back to Universal Truths with Mark Fultz, coming to you from WBHM-DB in beautiful Birmingham, Alabama, and coming to you from my cute little house, my tiny little house near beautiful Pensacola, Florida. And I am talking to you tonight about the Annunaki. And these people that it's such a subject now. When I was young, it was like a very few people were reading Zecharia Sitchin, and they were covering it, but it was like reading stereo instructions for a lot of people. So when I started hearing things that resonated with me, that's when I went, okay, I understand some of it. So, and when we ended at the other commercial, talking about the Anunnaki who came down and started mingling with the people, which was against their rules, because their rule was they created whatever was here. They needed to stay sanitary and laboratory created. And then when they tinkered with people to go from hybrid to reproduce, then, the Anunnaki who mixed with them, it made different people, made giants. And so, like I was saying before, there are 7-foot and 8-foot tall people who've existed within our lifetime. So I look at that and go, well, back in the day, there could have been all these 8-foot tall people, because we keep getting little throwbacks. There could have been the people that they, quote unquote, took to make the workers, where they took their DNA and what was here. There are people that are throwbacks that have long hair covering them, and it's hypertrichosis. And and the way that those people look and sound very familiar to the descriptions of Bigfoot, the ones that they took to fix to make the workers here. So, and the Indians, all the Indians, if you go check any Indian background, they have myths in like over 40-something Indian tribes of these Bigfoot, 8-foot tall, hairy people that we call Bigfoot. They call them Ewas. They think they're interdimensional, which would explain why you don't catch one, that they can vibrate so heavily that they can split the veil, come through the dimensional bands, and appear, and then vibrate and go right back. So that is, but what they were talking sounded a lot like an 8-foot, 7-foot tall Bigfoot, which in Chickamauga, Georgia, I have seen a spirit that follows a ley line, and you usually see it on May 1st when it's walking the line. But it was 7-foot tall, hairy and tall, looked a lot like Bigfoot. And in that local area, the Indians called them Ewas. And not like Star Trek, Star Wars, excuse me, but they called these Ewas. And they are shambling, tall, hairy. Now, when their people started mixing with what was here, it made a lot of confusion and it got out of hand. But I think a lot of those Anunnakis who were using the people to be slaves, they started using those people to be slaves and to do other things like run the gardens, make the food, help, do whatever they needed them for. And even though they knew it was, they had made a mistake letting it get this far, they continued because they came here, like I said, they came here not to get rich. They came here to get the gold and things like that for survival, to be able to use satellites to transport that sunlight from the sun to their dying planet, Nirabu. And they worked at it quite a ways, apparently. And something in the stories that I thought was very interesting back when is they talked about the poles shifting, and if these people understood the poles were shifting, and at some point it would cause a major flood. Now, let's talk about Elon Musk a moment. And he's talking about taking people, leaving this planet, going to Mars, nuking the poles of Mars, which would heat up it would shift the poles, heat up the water, any water that's there, make atmosphere. Of course, it would be poisoned, from nuclear waste, but guys don't seem to get that, It's like, let's just nuke it and make it where it creates environment. And it'll create an environment, but it will be one that is toxic. So they haven't thought that out really well. But these people back then, 400,000 years ago, talking about the poles on the Earth, if it's not a mistranslation or a Zechariah thing, or if he got it right, these people knew that, and they may have had a hand in, they may have done the same thing. We're planning to do it somewhere else. So we're going to be the Annunnakis going to Mars, except we're not as advanced as they are. But we're going to go mess with the planet because we've messed this one up so badly. And they were having to come here because their planet was messed up enough. So it's not like it's not a repeat story. And it's amazing to me that kind of, and like I said, it could be, his translation. It can be, I'm sure there are people who will say, yes, it is, and no, it isn't. You always have haters and people who are professional skeptics who go, no, yes, no. And they talk about science. Well, for us, science is only a couple hundred years old. Human experience is thousands of years old. And if, according to the Sumerian thing, it's 400,000 or more. And the reason that some religions, I believe, go, well, the earth is only 6,000 years old, it's because that's when these people left. Because they were leaving. The ones that had caused all this, they were leaving because they knew the poles were going to shift. It was going to drown a lot of places. And they thought, well, this is a chance for it to wipe out what we messed with, and nobody will know the better. And they packed up their stuff. Once they got everything they wanted, they left. But there were some of them that stayed. They thought they really liked us. They really liked what was here. And they stayed with us and helped us and tried to help those survive the flood, which the Bible covers the flood. I think almost all religions have a flood story. But if it's because the poles shifted, then there was a flood caused by the pole shifting. And these people knew it. How would they know that? How would they know that? And they seem to in this story. And it gets into another interesting thing, which is Atlantis. People go, oh, yeah, no. You know, that's that. When I was a kid, I was fascinated with the idea of Atlantis. And then people were always poo-pooing it because they're going, oh, no, that couldn't happen. That couldn't happen. Well, guess what? Alexandria, that used to be where Cleopatra lived, is underwater because of earthquakes. Why couldn't a place go underwater because of earthquakes? Because guess what? There are plenty of places underwater because of earthquakes and the pole shifting and the water rising, and the places that were forest, like the desert, like Sahara, is now a desert. And there are places, I came from Chattanooga, Tennessee. It used to be underwater because there are fossils everywhere of sea creatures in the rocks. It used to be underwater. The tall mountains used to be under the ocean. So everything shifts, and what's under the ocean becomes dry, and what's dry becomes under the ocean. It just happens that way. And, the idea of Atlantis, people still poo-poo that. I'm like, well, it's very possible it happened. But, there's a great, I've seen some really good videos on YouTube. And there's one, Jim Corsetti, I think he goes under Bright Insight. He has these great videos about the eye of the Sahara being Atlantis. And there are old maps that he shows, and there are other people with that video, but I think he's the first one I saw it, that there are old maps that show in the Sahara Atlantis, not under the ocean somewhere, that and where the Sahara is, it turned from a beautiful, lush garden kind of atmosphere into a desert within 100 years. I think if I remember the story right, it happened pretty quickly. That's like a second in time, Poof, it went from being beautiful and lush, it went to that. And the story they were telling, when they flooded, the Annunaki and these people, there were a lot of Annunaki there. Because, it's not too far from Africa. It's not, it's down the road from Egypt. It's down the road from the Nile. And these incredibly these incredibly advanced people with technologies we don't understand could have been living in the eye of the Sahara. That looks like Atlantis. It has the 3 rings. Well, then it flooded. Well, then the survivors of that, apparently, were trading with the Egyptians because they were only down the street from them, really. So the survivors took their technology, moved to Egypt, and guess what? Egypt became advanced. That would be why there are drill holes that we can't replicate. There are stone cuttings and buildings we can't explain. But it would explain to me, oh, well, that's how the Egyptians became so advanced. And then they hoarded it. And as they began to die out, that information went away. Or they hid it, or it got destroyed, or it's, and it could have been, we don't know. There could be things that have been discovered they just ain't showed us. But is it possible that Atlantis was really in the desert and it got flooded? These people took their technology to the Egyptians, and the Egyptians become brilliant. And there are carvings that show gigantic light bulbs, and there is proof that they had batteries back then. In the Pyramid of Giza, there's like these little strange holes and tunnels, and they think maybe those were for wires to run electricity, possibly. And that before the Pyramid of Giza, before it turned into desert, it was a jungle, and the pyramid functioned off of water, and it wasn't what we think it is. It definitely wasn't used to store hay. We are going to have to go to a break at the top of the hour. So all of you out there in the dark, do not touch that dial. We will be right back.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Windsor Johnston. President Biden is preparing to deliver a primetime address in Philadelphia at this hour. NPR's Tamara Keith reports Biden is expected to use his speech to highlight certain ongoing threats to American democracy.
With the midterm elections approaching, President Biden is using this speech to lay out the stakes for the nation, though Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre insists tonight's address isn't a political speech.
Just because you call out what you're seeing in this current moment, the extremism, the attack on our democracy, the attack on our freedom, the concerns that Americans have themselves, doesn't mean you can't bring the country together and show a positive way forward. Show some hope. Give some people some hope.
Republicans have already criticized the speech, saying that by directing criticism at elements of the Republican Party, Biden is violating his promise to be a unifying president. Tamara Keith, NPR News, the White House.
The director of the CDC has signed off on updated versions of the COVID-19 vaccine. NPR's Rob Stein reports the new booster shots target the highly contagious Omicron variants, which are now the dominant strains in the U.S.
The boosters are new versions of the Moderna and Pfizer-BioNTech vaccines that for the first time are designed to protect against the highly contagious Omicron subvariants that most people are catching now. The FDA authorized the Pfizer-BioNTech shots for anyone aged 12 or older who got their last shot at least 2 months ago. The Moderna shots are authorized for anyone 18 or older. Some experts are skeptical that the new shots will provide much stronger protection than the original shots, but the CDC advisors agreed with federal officials and vaccine companies that the new boosters are safe and should provide stronger, possibly longer-lasting protection, especially against what could be another wave of infections this fall and winter. Rob Stein, NPR News.
No ruling yet from a federal court in Florida, where lawyers for former President Donald Trump are asking a judge to appoint a special master to conduct an independent review of documents seized from Trump's estate last month. NPR's Greg Allen reports.
In an earlier order, U.S. District Judge Eileen Cannon said it was her preliminary intent to name a special master as requested by the former president. Cannon, a Trump appointee, asked the government what harm would be caused by an independent review. Justice Department lawyer Jay Bratt said it would slow down the investigation, but his main argument was that the material seized belongs to the government, not to former President Trump. Trump's lawyers said the search has raised questions about the integrity of the investigation. Appointing a special master, they said, would help restore order and public confidence in the process. Judge Cannon said she'll issue an order in due course. Greg Allen, NPR News, West Palm Beach.
You're listening to NPR News in Washington. Crews in Southern California are working to slow a fast-moving wildfire that's burned through about 8 square miles. Emergency teams are pulling water from Castaic Lake in an effort to help slow the blaze. Residents in the area have been told to evacuate. The fire is about 12% contained. China has locked down the city of Chengdu, forcing its more than 21 million residents to stay at home. It's the latest in a years-long string of disruptive lockdowns across the country to try to stop the spread of COVID-19. As NPR's John Ruwitch reports, the city has reported only a few hundred cases.
Chengdu is the capital of Sichuan province in China's southwest. It's known for its spicy food and pandas. It's also a tech hub and one of the country's most economically important cities. The government announced this lockdown as case numbers there rose. The city's residents were told to stay in their homes for at least the next 4 days while the authorities conduct mass testing. China has consistently doubled down on its so-called dynamic zero COVID policy. That policy aims to prevent the virus from entering the country with tight border controls and stop it from spreading with sweeping lockdowns, mass testing, and close surveillance. John Ruwitch, NPR News.
Inspectors from the International Atomic Energy Agency have begun assessing the safety of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant in southern Ukraine. The 14 members of the UN's nuclear watchdog arrived there this morning after their convoy was slowed by shelling. I'm Windsor Johnston, NPR News in Washington.
How do we reinvent ourselves? And what's the secret to living longer? I'm Anush Zamarodi. Each week on NPR's TED Radio Hour, we go on a journey with TED speakers to seek a deeper understanding of the world and to figure out new ways to think and create. Listen now.
Welcome back to Universal Truths with Mark Fultz, and I am coming to you from WBHM-DB in beautiful Birmingham, Alabama. And I'm also coming to you from my little home, my tiny, cute little itty-bitty home near beautiful Pensacola. And tonight we are talking aliens. We're talking Annunaki. And while I'm thinking about it, I want to make a little. I need to reference something. The show that I did before I had to take last week off. The last show I really did was about Mary Todd Lincoln and seances in the White House, and I'd known about those stories since I was a little kid. But when I was telling on that show about, I didn't know how many seances they had in the White House, and I went to an article called "Seances in the Red Room" by Alexandra Como, I think it's, and found the number because they thought that they had 8 seances. So I wanted to give her to make. I forgot to give that information when I was doing that, so I'm doing it now before I get on with my show. So I wanted to make sure I gave credit where credit is due because she did a great article. So I enjoyed that show. So if you get a chance, go look at it. It's pretty interesting. Now, we are going back to aliens. Now, I was just talking with Kat during the break. And if you look at the Assyrian carvings and all that, you have all these guys that are half animal and have big wings. The wings represent flight, I mean, the ancient people, that's how they did flight. They knew these people could fly. They just weren't, I don't think they were just really doing wings. It just represents flight. But a lot of us, you'll look at the big man carvings, and they'll have like these little man purses, and then they're holding up a pine cone. And in metaphysics, the pine cone is the pineal gland. That's your third eye. So whatever was in those little purses probably was a device for them to purposely be able to use telepathy to talk to each other. And I think that would be a fascinating thing to see. But people, they look at them and go, I don't know what that is. But when I look at it, I go, that's a device, because they talk through telepathy to whoever's in the ships, who's ever here. You know, you could talk, because when you do telepathy, you don't have a time and a space. It's wherever that person is. And I metaphysically have techniques which I want to do experiments with, to be able to remote view and to project. And we've been able to prove that before. So it's the same thing with them, except they just had a mechanism to be able to project to the person they want to talk to. Then they could just do it telepathically, but they had tools to do it. We were also talking about some of the jewelry and stuff. I think it's like the Aztec kind of stuff. They have these little gold jeweled flying airplanes as jewelry based on what these people were flying. And our airships look like they're based on those little several thousand-year-old pieces of jewelry. But if you look at it, you'll see little gold ships, little gold planes, thousands of years ago. And through time, I mean, we've in the Bible, everywhere, they talk about lights in the sky and aliens and, ships and things. And it's not something that's just happened from the 50s. It's been going on a while. So we have some of the same techniques that they would have. We can go into outer space. We can go to other planets. We've gone to the moon. We can do this. We can do this. So why is it so strange to think that someone a long time ago could do this and came here? And what's to think we can't go past what we see and go somewhere and find a primitive planet that has people on it, and then act like God and play with them and use them for our purposes, because that's what people do. They go in, they take over, they're like roaches. They take over, they can't help themselves with their egos, and they want to control everything and want to be gods. But we could do that. They never think they shouldn't do it. They do it anyway. I don't think we should ever do it. But you know how people are. And if they from our planet if our planet was dying and they had to go way out of there to get stuff, to get some, do the same thing like these people were doing, it's not that different. I mean, Elon Musk is wanting to get off of the earth because he knows it's dying. We're killing it. We're poisoning it. We're poisoning ourselves. We can't stop drinking sodas. We can't stop smoking cigarettes. We can't stop living in our own garbage. Our water is filtered sewage. The dyes we use for clothing, poison. We do plastics. We do, we do so many things that kill. We kill so many animals that we're not healthy. We're not treating them well, so we're not getting a good response. We're treating them badly. So we get that stress, we get those things, and we eat that meat. Whereas as humans and advanced people, we should be able to do things where no one gets hurt. Nothing gets hurt. If we have to have food, the animals aren't suffering or tortured. And in some places, they torture the food. They torture the animals. They torture the people before they eat them, because they think that makes it sweeter. we do things that are not good for us. Right now, there's a war going on. I won't say which place, but they're keep tinkering around the nuclear plant. When you get nuclear poisoning, radiation poisoning, it's not usable for 1,000 years. And yet, men go right for that. They go right for the missiles because that represents manhood that they don't have. It looks like power. So what these people did isn't too different than what we would do. And we would jump off this planet. These rich people, now it's the rich people that'll be jumping off the planet because they know, oh, well, we screwed this up. Let's go somewhere else and start all over. Like they're going to do a good job somewhere else. They're just going to take their poison somewhere else. Well, these people came. They had good intentions to save their planet. They didn't have good intentions by having slaves, but they used them. And when those slaves didn't work out, they made another slave. They made us, if the stories are right. We weren't held in esteem by most of these people. Now, there were some that loved us and did hold us in esteem, but these people didn't make this story isn't like, oh, they made it and made us friends. They made us as slave labor. And people don't understand. Slave stuff is in human behavior. We have over 40 million people as slaves on this world right now. I think it's 40 million if I remember correctly. 40 million people that are slaves right now. Sex slaves, indebted slaves, or slaves in different trades. And it seems to be something we have to fight against. It's not because these people are like that. Well, if these rich people go somewhere, they're going to use people as their slaves. They want people to go and be the workers while they reap the benefits. Do you really want to go sit on Mars for 50 years and work your butt off and then become just so that these other people who helped with their money mess up the world? And we do our part. Everybody, we know, we all produce garbage. We all produce poisons we put into the air. We burn things in our trash bins. We run our cars. We're killing the earth because it's a natural. The earth has a self-regulatory system. It makes its own water and air, and the center of the earth is hot lava, which I think of that like the heart. And the skin is the earth, the dirt itself. It looks like an embryo. If you cut the earth in half and look at it, and you see the atmosphere. That's the embryonic fluid. The earth creates air and water and atmosphere. And without us, animals flourish, flowers, trees flourish. And we have places where they've cut out the Amazon, knowing it will destroy some of the atmosphere, knowing that, but it's for profit. So let's do it. Let's spill oil into the ocean. Kill what we can there. Who cares? It's about money. So we can do it now. So how can we say that it didn't happen before and won't happen again? Now, we're going to have to go to a break here just shortly. And when we come back, I'll try and get back into some of the stories about the Annunaki. But I'm trying to just get across to you that how far-fetched people say it is, it's really not that far-fetched. So now we're going to a break. All of you out there in the dark, don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Paratalk Radio is your one-stop for all things paranormal, the unknown, and the supernatural. Join us every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central for discussions and guests on topics such as ghosts, hauntings, Bigfoot, UFOs, and more. This broadcast is rated M for mature and intended for listeners over 16 on paratalkradio.com.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope.
That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to Universal Truths. This is Mark Fultz coming to you from WBHM-DB in beautiful Birmingham, Alabama, coming to you from my cute little tiny house near beautiful Pensacola, Florida. And we're talking aliens. And when I left you last time, we were talking about we are doing the exact same thing that these people in this story, in these stories that have been translated correctly or incorrectly by people, the thing that these people came to do, we're going to do the same thing. There are rich people right now trying to plan how to get the heck off this planet because it's been messed with. It's not going to, recover unless we make it recover. And we treat it well. Well, guess what? That's not any human nature. Human nature is, I can make $10 doing this. Oh, I can make $10 billion doing this. What does it matter if that red dye kills people and gives them cancer? Let's put it on all the clothes. Let's put it on dresses. Let's make it desirable. Let's, we're putting stuff into food that will purposely give people cancer. Oh, what does it matter? It saves money for us. They're going to die anyway. Here, have another bite. And we're going to do it. They're going to do it. And there are things going on that you can look up yourself. These things where these people were messing with genetics and making half this and half that, playing with stuff. We're kind of doing that right now. There's an article you can look up called Spider Goat Milk. What they've done, seriously, what they've done is they've taken a gene of a specific spider, mixed it with a goat gene, which I would never have thought about this, but they take the milk of the goat, and in that milk they can spin a thread, and that thread is strong as steel, and they're going to use that thread to make bulletproof vests for policemen. No joke. They're doing that genetically. And they have said at some point there will be goats who turn out to be more spider than it is goat. And I thought, well, if that isn't a horror show, I don't know what is. But they're doing it. It's not something they're playing with going to do. They're doing it. They're making a thread as strong as steel from a spider and a goat. That's what these people were doing. They were just going, oh, let's see, what happens if we mix that with a lion? Or what happens if we mix that with a bull? Or what happens if we mix that person with one of these strange things over here? What happens? They're going to be hybrids, so they'll die. They'll die off. They're not going to reproduce. So why not try and see what happens? They were doing it. They did try to have restrictions. I don't think that their restrictions worked because, like people here, they can never stop. Now, right now they go, well, we can't genetically clone people because of ethics. Well, you better believe somewhere someone is doing it with it. I just saw something before I came on here. They have a chip or a mechanism that they're installing in people who have have cerebral palsy and things like that can't use their hands, or they shake, or they can't use their hands. They have a chip that is in the brain, and they can think thoughts and control emails and text. If that isn't futuristic, I don't know what it is, but it's true. They just did it. They can use some stem cells and recreate things. They can, there are scientists working on a thing called transferring of self, which is they know through practice that they can transfer people's energy into other items, and they're working on trying to do it where they can transfer a person into a computer, yourself, your energy. But it's an energy. Why wouldn't it be able to be downloaded? Everything works. I think the internet works like our spirits do. We download. When I was in the process of dying before I had my near-death experience came back, you download and then you upload, just like a computer. So now they're tinkering with transferring what it is that's in you, transferring that self into a computer. They have done practices to transfer people's energy and essences into organs, other, arms and things that other people. It sounds crazy, but they're doing it. And they know how to clone. And if someone goes to another planet, they can take our DNA. They can clone something to work, a person that would work in that atmosphere, that gravity. We'll be doing it. You know it. And spiritual, like I said, as a psychic. I've been exposed to some things that I can't tell you where they're from. I just know that they're old. But they seem to be like on the edges. They watch us more than they do anything. They watch us. And you can bet your bottom dollar, every time we have something that deals with nuclear issues or nuclear plants or someone threatening to nuke us or nuke somebody else or nuke somebody somewhere else, the UFO activity increases. And people will tell you that they believe the UFOs shut down the nuclear stuff, or we would probably already be fried beyond recognition, but a lot of it gets shut down because humans can't stop wanting to threaten someone, to burn someone with nuclear war. And there are stories from the past where they used nuclear stuff. There's a place in Egypt where over 3,500 years ago that it was burnt. The stones were almost melted. There was something went through there, very similar to nuclear energy. The story in the Bible of Lot, where Babylon and all that, got whatever it was that got blasted and turned into salt. It may not have been salt. That may have been a story of someone who survived a nuclear blast. And I think these people are smart enough to know if they want anything to do with this planet, and they may be waiting for this planet to fail, then they could step in and take that and make it theirs again. Or maybe they have an interest in us. Maybe they want us to stop from destroying ourselves. Or maybe they go, well, if they nuke everything, it's not going to be usable. We can't let them do that because then it poisons something very important. Maybe we're the stop in between other galaxies. Maybe there's a reason they don't want us to poison ourselves. And there are leaders who are just willing, just wanting to push that button. Little dictators who want to do it. And that's where we would have to watch out for, is a little country who says, I'll show you, you're not scared of us? Let me scare you. Let me blast one of your cities, just one of your cities, and you're gonna be afraid. How has that not happened already? How have we not become toast over and over again? It seems like when that kind of picks up, UFO activity increases, something happens. We're right now one of the countries that's fighting for its life. They're having to worry about their nuclear plants being blown up. If it does, we're all poisoned. We're all poisoned. We have a lot of radiation in our stuff now. After Hiroshima, that's where, the radiation level raised up everywhere. They can tell when it's pre-Second World War, because the radiation level isn't so high. Everything got it. Everything, books, everything we use, everything has a certain type of radiation in it. It didn't have before Hiroshima. We don't have any way to stop people from being stupid. Maybe we need people. Maybe we need people from other places to watch us and say, they're stupid. They're going to blow themselves up. Maybe that's what's happening. Maybe it's good. Maybe it's not so good. You know, the people who came here, they saw us as work labor, as workforce. If they came back, would they be happy with us? Would they go, well, you're still not evolved? You could work for us and free labor. Or the worst scenario, like Tom Cruise's film, you know, they could say, oh, well, they're, you know, it's like McDonald's. They're fat. You know, I'll take one of those and a big drink. They're fat. Yummy, yummy. You know, we don't know that an alien encounter would be bad, but we also don't know that, well, if the stories are true, the encounter we had with them was kind of weird. That if it's true, that's why there's no like missing link in between the evolution of the Neanderthal. Poof, there we are. You know, it would explain why there's no missing link, because there was a genetic skip. And people who feel like they had a hand in creating that, if that's true, who's to say they won't come back and say, hey, we're coming back, it's our rules. You're just here. You thought this was your planet. This isn't your planet. This is our planet. You know, get to work. But like I said, any of it that seems like it could be real now, it could be real then. So we've just had so much going on here that is so out of range. I mean, we're very sci-fi our way. You know, we have so many things that we do that other people, primitive people, would look at and think it's magic. We talk on little black things and talk across the air. We look at pictures in a box where the pictures go across the air. We get in metal containers and fly. We get in metal containers with 4 wheels and drive ourselves. We take oil, which is an important thing for the earth to survive, because it keeps the heat separated from the magma. It keeps the heat separated from the dirt, from the earth, from the surface. Just like your car, we put the oil in it. If you don't put oil in your car, the engine cracks. When we take the oil out of the earth, the engine cracks. We get earthquakes. We get sinkholes. We're taking something that it took millions of years, or, you know, if you only think the earth is 6,000 years, thousands of years. It took a long time for that, for the animals and the plants and the people to disintegrate, to become a sludge that protects us from the center heat, and we pull it out every day. We're pulling the oil out of the earth, taking it away from protecting us from being burned alive by lava. And then we wonder why things like Yellowstone is like a bomb. You know, the pressure builds up. There are geysers because the heat is so close to the surface, the water is boiling. And maybe it's the thing like what they said, you know, used to say, well, if a frog jumped into hot water, it would jump right back out. But if it jumped into cool water and it slowly got warm, it wouldn't know to jump out when it got hot. And that sounds a lot like us. We don't know how hot it is. We don't know what the pot is going to do. We don't know. And we're not thinking beyond a few years at a time. And people go, well, the climate change. Well, the climate change has always changed. Like I said, there are places I came from that were under the ocean at some point. The climate change is going to continue because it always does. Yes, we have added to its detriment, but we're just in the way of nature. On this ball of dirt that's continuously held together by electromagnetic fields, floating in the sky, in the perfect spot, so that we have sun and water, and we're on a perfect place, and it's not so perfect when we poison it and when we abuse it, and we tend to abuse everything we touch. And I don't know how you consciously get people thinking, maybe I shouldn't do that. Maybe I should do this. Maybe I should become more concerned. But, I think we're the frogs that are in the water, and we just don't realize how hot that water is going to get. And if something happened and the aliens come back, or the Annunaki come back, and they think we're great with fries, maybe we deserve that. Maybe we deserve it. Maybe they would come back and go, well, y'all have gotten to this point. Let's help you get a little further. That would be nice. It wouldn't be bad if it was that kind of thing, but we don't know what that's going to be like. We don't know our human nature. We can't barely get along with other countries, let alone other people. And now I'm not talking just America. I'm talking humankind. And, kind is kind of stretching it, but humankind. We just don't have a clue. And that's because I think we're spoiled, but also I think we don't have a way to really get around all this stuff. That's why I think there are rich people wanting to get a boat and get out of here. But they'll do the same thing elsewhere because it's human nature. We'll go to another planet and do it, and then from that planet we'll go to another planet, and there'll be people from other planets who'll pass us on the way back here, going, "Well, that place was great 6,000 years ago. Let's go back there. It has plenty of sunshine and water and air and hot babes, people who are pretty to look at, and lots to eat, and let's go back to that planet." And we're wanting to hop off this planet and go somewhere else because we're like, "Oh, this one's not so great. Let's go find one that's better." We might pass the Anunnaki on the way for them coming back here, because they came here for a lot of reasons, because this place has so much. And we're all prone to live and die. If you're living, one day you'll be dead. One day we'll all go. And if something ever happens where it changes that, it's not anything different. People have died in mass as long as we've been here. There have been always change. There have been lots of people. They can trace down to where humanity went down to 5,000 people and then started over. So we can't live out of fear. It's a worthless thing to live out of fear. So we just have to take, I guess, what's here, be the best spiritual being you can be, enjoy this beautiful place we have, and then when it's time, just be ready to go on the next trip. Because all of us aren't going to be able to jump off this planet and go to Mars. Not that I would want to. I like this planet too much. But we have to change how we treat others and treat ourselves, how we treat our animals, and how we treat the animals that we eat. And if we could just raise ourselves just a little, it makes a difference. It may not change the universe. It may not change the trajectory. But it sure wouldn't be nice. Wouldn't it be nice to live in a world where people aren't throwing little kittens into oncoming traffic or hurting their children or killing people because they have compulsions? You know, we need to raise ourselves up a little. We need to brush off. And if these people do come back while we're here, we need to show them that we can stand on our own. And even if it's like a redneck with a gun, honey, because I got a gun, we should be ready for life, whatever it throws at us. Don't be an observer. Be a doer. Now, we are going to go to our last break, and then we'll be back. So all of you out there in the dark, don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope.
That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Welcome back to Universal Truths with Mark Fultz. I'm coming to you from WBHM-DB in beautiful Birmingham, Alabama, and I'm coming to you from my tiny little house near beautiful Pensacola, Florida. And I've been telling and talking about aliens and the earth and what we're doing to it and wanting to do for it, or people who are wanting to get on a bus and go somewhere else, instead of, you know, how do we become the solution? But then again, sometimes there is no solution. And look at all the animals that have become extinct, that have come and gone, beautiful things, and beautiful animals that are becoming extinct in our time. And one day, we may become extinct. We may be the fossils. And then something else will evolve. What happened? There are so many people out there right now religiously that are praying for the end of days, praying for the I can't even think of what it's called, but when the end of the earth comes, and then the people of certain religions will fly up into the sky, and it will leave the people who are not them suffering in heat and agony and things. And there are paintings from the 14th century of people laying around dead it was like the end of the earth, and they're laying around in their cod pieces and their tights. And, people have been praying for the end of the earth so they can go, see, I'm a good person. I'm not suffering. You're suffering. I'm in the right place. They would want to bring the suffering upon people that aren't them to prove a religious point. So, that's kind of scary. But we can't let that kind of fear get in our heads. You have to be on your toes. You can't let the bad things win. You can't let the bad thoughts win. And even if we have problems here where we just have a limited time, you need to go outside, look at that beautiful tree, sit by the tree, look at the beautiful flowers, look at the beautiful pets, look at the beautiful animals, look at the beautiful children. If we had 10 seconds left, try to find something beautiful. Try to tell somebody something you've never said. Try to forgive something that you've never put into words. Be a doer. Don't be an observer. One thing I see, the aliens probably do laugh at us quite a bit if they watch YouTube. But I see all these videos where people are, they're filming saving animals, but the animals are in precarious positions, and they're filming. And I'm like, why are you filming that? Why aren't you grabbing that kitten? Why aren't you grabbing that puppy? Why aren't you grabbing that child? Because they want to film something. They're not thinking about that. And I find myself if I see something happening, I just do it. I just react. I don't sit there going, oh, isn't that terrible? And then there's been times, where I've had to sit back and I go, and it just kills me because you go, it's not my place, but I want to help, or because by not saying no, sometimes we're saying yes. And be a doer. If you see something wrong, call the police. If you see somebody being abused, try to help in that, step in that, or get someone in that can help. Maybe it will help, maybe it won't, but at least you tried. Be a trier. Don't let abuse go on with children. Don't sit back and go, well, it's not me, so I don't have to worry about it. Because it will come back. Something will come around to you, and you'll be wanting someone to help you. And you'll be wondering, why isn't someone picking up the phone calling? So try to raise yourself. Raise your children to be aware that the earth is a special thing. People are special things. Pets are special things. Animals, flowers. Without the flower, without the bee, one little thing, without the bee, we are dead. Without the bee, one simple thing. Everything is important. Everybody has their place. We have our place. We have our part to play. We need to be kinder, cleaner, and better. And if there are people from other places that come here, let's hope that they're understanding, compassionate, and that we can show compassion. And if they're not happy, nice, and compassionate, we can show them that we don't put up with stuff. You don't go into someone's turf and try to beat them on their own turf. So either way, be prepared for life. You know, if an alien comes down, let's see what they got to offer. Well, we wouldn't have much choice anyway, because they're more advanced than us. But are they more compassionate? Are they, you know, are we more compassionate? Do they watch what we do and go, you know, what were they thinking? Because I see stuff all the time. I just don't know what those people are thinking. I deal in the metaphysical business, and there are people who come in who tell me things. I'm like, really? You know, or show things or show behavior that it goes over my head. You know, it's like we would make great exhibits in a zoo if somebody wanted to do that. That would not be a good option either. So we need to quit putting our head in the sand and going, there's nothing out there. It's just us because we're so important. There are other things in the universe. There has to be, in my opinion. I could always be wrong, but I feel like we have clues that there have been things and are things. And we need to rule our life like we're living each day. Tomorrow could be the end. Well, let's live it for that. But, you know, we could go on as people for not thousands more years. We could. And we need to plan for that. Aliens or not. So now I'm going to, we're getting close to the end of the show. So anyone who wants to see me in person, again, I feel like I live at Live and Let Live Metaphysical Store in Pensacola, 4622 Softly Field Road. I'm there some turn a week, but usually you really can catch me Fridays and Saturdays. And if you're coming into town and want to see me, just call ahead and try and do a 24-hour thing. Let me know on Facebook because I'm terrible at looking at my emails right now. I think I have 10,000 emails. That happens when you get to be old. But contact me on Facebook or call the store, ask for Sal or Matthew, and tell them that you want to see me and you're coming into town, and they can call me and let me know ahead of time, or you can contact me on Facebook. I'm Mark Elliott Fultz, Mark Elliott, ELLIOTTFULTS, and I will try my darndest to come and see you. I want to thank everyone. I thank Kat Hobson for giving me the opportunity to do the show, and Teal Gray, she helped get me in here as well. And I love it that there are people who listen to me, and I hope that what I'm telling you, I hope you find grains in it that work in your life or help you. Every person should have something to say. And if you're just following others, you're not really burning a path. You need to walk your own path. You need to bring something to life. You need to bring something to your life. You need to love, be happy, you know, find what does you. I think I love my house. I love my pets. I love my flowers. I love where I live. I feel like I'm a millionaire, and I'm not. I'm a poor psychic who's just having a great time, and I'm rich in talents, and I'm rich in opportunities, and I appreciate every second of it. because I know it can go away. And I'm appreciative of you because you're spending your time to listen to me talk. Little redneck psychic, fat psychic from Chattanooga. And I hope that there's something you can find in what I'm telling you. I hope you find life beautiful, find happiness, find love, find yourself. And we don't need an alien to come find us to make us find ourselves. Let's find ourselves first. Well, children of the corn, it is time for me to let you go tonight. So my next show will be about death spirits and their history and what are they, and who are they. And so until then, I want to wish you a good night. Good night to all of you.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.